Started this project, the Securing the Future project, last year after doing a paper for my urban politics and policy class on the problems of homeland security in Baltimore. After having lived in Israel and being there during 9/11, I realized that citizen preparedness was a key issue regarding homeland security. So we got a group of high schools together who were recommended by their teachers as elite students from their high schools from all over the greater Baltimore area to discuss issues of homeland security. The conference last year was a really big success, and so much so that we were allowed to do it this year. And as you can see, it was a great success again. And it's important to learn about these things before you get to college so that your college education can help prepare you for a career in homeland security. That these issues are those that are going to affect our generation, and that our generation needs to be educated and informed about it.
We started off with a speech from IR Professor Stephen David. Dr. David gave the kids an introduction to the basics of terrorism.
Let me begin talking about terrorism with a definition. Because some people say, well, terrorism is whatever you think it is, and one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. And I don't agree with that. I think terrorism has a specific definition and a specific purpose. To me, what terrorism is deliberate violence against innocent people to create fear for a political purpose. What's important to understand in terrorism is that even if you agree with the goal of terrorists, it doesn't change the fact that they're terrorists. I mean, we can't stop being what we are. We can't stop having an entertainment industry. We can't stop having the values that we hold dear, freedom of people, emancipation for women, the tolerance of other religions. I don't want us to change our policies in response to terrorism. I want us to change our policies in response to doing what is the right thing.
Between lectures, we broke up kids into smaller sections where they were able to discuss these issues more broadly.
It should kind of be like that in the system. Have like a step-by-step way of dealing with terrorism. Maybe start by preemption, but just in case you have all these like backup systems, kind of like make like a ladder of sorts.
Basically, what I like most about his is how he discredited all the stereotypes, like you said, like the poverty or the Nation of Islam or whatever. Like, people will always be like, oh, it's an Arab on the plane, and always be scared, but it's not really the Arab nation, it's some certain people in that nation, and it's people really need to recognize that it's not everyone, and that you shouldn't just group a certain group together. And
Dr. Roth kicked off the second day by speaking to the kids about weapons of mass destruction. He explained the serious threats that we face.
That are biological weapons, right? Biological weapons are simply weapons that target the vulnerabilities of the human immune system, which is a ridiculously fancy way of saying weapons that make you sick. Chemical weapons are essentially gas products, right? You take a compound that, when it interacts with the human being, can cause certain kinds of effects, right? Now, some chemical weapons are really not all that dangerous. They're just very annoying. Can anybody give me an example of a chemical weapon that we use here all the time that's really annoying but not really dangerous?
Tear gas.
Tear gas. In fact, when I was in the military, you had to undergo training of how you were going to fight in a chemical environment. And the way they would do that training, what they wanted to do is convince you that the apparatus, the defense measures, gas masks, etc., that you have work, right? So what they would do is they would put you in what they call the gas chamber, right? I have to point out, just parenthetically, I was in the Israeli military, so I find it highly ironic that the Israeli military would call this thing the gas chamber, but whatever, right? And the gas chamber was filled with tear gas, and you'd all be standing around there with your gas masks on, and the commander would point to somebody, and you had to take your gas mask off and say your name, rank, and serial number, right? And the point of it, you'd be standing in that room chatting for 3, 4, 5 minutes, and everybody's fine, everybody's, you don't sense anything except a weird orangish glow around the room, and then you take this thing off, and it's you know, and you choke out your name, then you run out and you generally puke. It's a fine experience, and I encourage you all to have it.
We had a good balance of international relations issues and local homeland security issues such as first responding and emergency preparedness.
We even discussed port security with the director of Maryland's Department of Transportation, Earl Lewis.
MPA, Maryland Port Administration, basically operate. We own the port property, we own the terminals. We control security. And there's a lot of resources that are going into trying to prevent terrorist attacks. When you look at security at American ports, it starts far away from American ports. You're looking at layers of security. And this is a concept that these railroads have been used for a long time. You don't just want to have one measure and think that that one measure is going to protect you.
We gave the kids binders filled with information of everything from articles to speaker bios to timelines and fact sheets. The kids use their binders as tools to help them learn in more detail about important issues of national security and homeland security.
During the Securing Your Future program, my favorite speaker were the hero people. And basically what we did were we went into two separate groups and we learned about the AED, which was basically used to help save a person's life on campus in the case of like if someone gets drunk or like a car accident on campus. And I just found it interesting that those students are quickly accessible on campus, and with the AED they showed us how to use it on a person by where to put the electrodes, I think they were called, and they showed us like how the machine is basically self-explanatory.
So go ahead, you're in a basketball game.
Hey, buddy, you alright?
No response.
All right, go on that one, please.
Good.
Shoot.
Yeah. These ones aren't sticky because we've been using them for about a year and training our new people. That's a good idea, actually. Generally, you want to get as far away from this guy as possible.
Charging. Stay clear of patient.
This guy delivers about...
Deliver shot now. Press shot delivered.
Nice.
Backboarding, do you guys have any questions right off the bat about backboard? The other group, we did the whole thing in less than 3 minutes. I don't know, should we try it again?
We could, yeah.
So on timeless. Did you want to be the patient?
One, two.
Done. How much time was it?
2:47.
How was that? Not too bad?
So it's like, I think the worst part of the whole